Oh, hello there. We are going to talk buffers today. I want to compare the two buffers you see before you there. On the left is a mini buffer from This One's Mine, and it is priced at about $40. And on the right is a Sunday driver from a company called Lehle in Germany that is priced at more like $200. It's not an exactly fair comparison because the This One's Mine buffer is strictly that purpose. It's strictly to be a buffer in a small enclosure and do that one job and do it well. And it does do it well. And the Lehle is a buffer, but it can also be a booster. It can be a recording preamp. It has a lot of different uses. It can drive, it can actually overdrive your amp. It's made with super high quality components. So if you wanted something that's more multi-use that you might take on and off of your board and use for other things, that should be in consideration as well. But because it's such a high quality box, I did want to just compare the characteristics of both just as buffers. Now, I also really quickly want to answer the question, do I need a buffer in my setup? And the answer to that question is, I don't know. Do you? The reason I say that is because it's entirely based on what you're hearing. And before you go any further, if you like the sound that you're getting out of your pedals and your amp and you don't have a buffer, then the answer is no. You probably don't need a buffer, because if you like what you're getting, there's no real reason to mess with it unless you're, super preoccupied with making sure that mentally that you're going to get the sound closest to plugging straight into your amp as possible. And I have some of that going on, so I understand that. But if you don't like the sounds you're getting, this could be something to look into. Really quickly, a buffer is a unit that reduces the impedance in your signal, and that's just a fancy way to say it's going to restore some of your tone kind of high-end clarity. And what I mean is when you have long runs of cable between your amp and your guitar, even if there weren't any pedals in the way, the more cabling you add, you're going to notice a loss of clarity, mostly in the highs. Like some of the highs are going to drop off and it's going to sound a little bit muddy. That's just the nature of what happens. It's the same thing that happens when you have a lot of true bypass pedals together. True bypass pedals are designed to truly bypass the signal path of the pedal and just let it be straight in and straight out for your signal, which means if you've got a bunch of true bypass pedals, you're adding up the length of all those patch cables and adding that much cable to your path between your guitar and your amp, and it's going to cause that mud and that loss of high end, loss of clarity, etc. So a great way to tell is plug your guitar straight into your amp, hear what it sounds like, play something that has some high end in it, high notes, and then as quickly as you can plug through your entire board with everything off, and then listen again. If you notice a difference, then you might want to check into a buffer, because a buffer is going to fix a lot of that problem for you and eliminate some of that loss from the cabling. So I do really quickly want to show you how that looks for me. I've got about 8 true bypass pedals on my board, and I want to show you what it sounds like straight into the amp versus what it sounds like through those pedals off with no buffer in the chain. So I'm going to go with the old D chord here because it's got plenty of high notes in it, so you can tell kind of what loss there might be, since high end is kind of the thing that seems to suffer the most from long cable runs and true bypass boards and such. So straight into the amp, that chord sounds like this. So now that same chord running through all 8 of my true bypass pedals all off is going to sound like this. Now, even not having them back to back, and because I know already, because I've done this once before, but I can already hear a pretty serious difference. So I'm going, okay, there's definitely something going on. So I think I want to try adding a buffer into the chain. So I want to start with the mini buffer from This One's Mine. And when you add that buffer into the chain, your signal sounds instead like this. And now with the Lehle in the same spot. And now here at the end, I really just want to finish up with, again, through the magic of editing, I want to put all these clips right next to each other so you can kind of hear the differences both between a straight-in signal versus a buffered signal versus an unbuffered signal versus the two boxes kind of against each other, so you can decide for yourself what you think sounds best. So here we go. So hopefully you found that helpful, or at the very least informative. As always, you can check out the websites of both Lehle and this one's mine below the video there. They both make a super wide range of very good, very useful products that are all worth checking out. You can always feel free to subscribe to the channel if you would like to spend 5 minutes with some more gear or explore more things like this, comparing kind of what does what, blah, blah, blah. And that's really all I have to say. So bye-bye.